Hey everyone, this is Mikedot from OnRPG.com, and welcome to the first ever episode of OnRPG's Kicktracker. This is a monthly web series report on all the cool and unique gaming projects on Kickstarter that you should know about. Each month I'll be going over a handful of projects that are either new or in progress, as well as providing a few updates regarding Kickstarter projects that were featured in previous episodes. In true OnRPG fashion, you can expect to hear a lot of features focused on MMOs, free-to-play titles, collectible card games, and everything else in between. And lastly, with each Kickstarter project shown, I'll be throwing in some insight on what makes these projects so special. First up, I'd like to start things off with a new Kickstarter project that harkens back to a classic fantasy RPG series that hasn't seen the light of day in over several years. This Kickstarter project is called Underworld Ascendant, and it's a spiritual successor to the classic Ultima Underworld RPG that was released back in 1992. As the title for this game suggests, the entire game is set underground in the world of Stygian Abyss, where players must venture into deep, dark caverns and help out one of three different factions that are fighting for control of the underworld. Along with a gameplay engine that allows players to approach challenges in very unique ways, and a hero customization system that allows players to mix and match several different skill sets, this is a very ambitious title for Ultima fans and fans of fantasy RPGs in general. One thing I'd like to mention, however, is that I'm a bit skeptical on the whole dynamic player-driven narrative, because with some recent modern games that I've played that claim to give players that kind of freedom, mostly ones that are focused on morality systems, they usually end up locking players into one-sided scenarios. So what I'm hoping for is true freedom for players to shape the story at any given time. For example, I think it would be really cool if players could serve under one faction while working for another behind their back, and then it would be up to the player to not get caught by opposing faction members. I also wonder if it would be possible to work for none of the factions in the game and just be able to carve your own path to the end and see how the story results from that. I mean, these are just small little examples, but I think these little scenarios would just create a really interesting narrative throughout the rest of the game. If this project manages to reach its funding goal before the deadline, their stretch goals include new monsters, support for Mac and Linux, new campaigns, co-op play, and more. The funding deadline for this Kickstarter ends on March 6th. Next up is a Kickstarter staff pick, and with good reason too. This game is called Starr Mazer, and it's a fantastic retro-style game that mixes point-and-click adventure titles like Monkey Island and Full Throttle, and then it throws in classic shoot-'em-up titles like R-Type and Gradius, and it gets wrapped up nicely into a neat 16-bit package. The unique thing about this game is that it promotes itself as a new kind of game experience rather than it just being two games in one, as the gameplay transition between a shoot-'em-up and a point-and-click adventure is entirely seamless. At one point you could be solving a puzzle on foot, and in the next you could be jumping into the back of your spaceship to fight off hordes of enemies just to get to the next piece of the puzzle. There are even times where players will have to fight enemies by answering questions in a point-and-click adventure fashion, so you're always being kept on your toes here. Starr Mazer also doesn't seem to skimp on creating a solid gameplay experience for both of these genres separately, as the point-and-click gameplay seems to contain a lot of character interactions and puzzle solving, while the shoot-'em-up portions contains a lot of bullet hell style arcade action. But the best part about this project is the chiptune soundtrack that's being worked on by Alex Marr, along with a few other well-known artists including Manami Matsume, a Japanese game composer who is best known for her work on Capcom titles including Mega Man, and upcoming titles such as Mighty No. 9. If the team behind this project can deliver an excellent story, this game could be great for fans of modern nostalgia. The funding deadline for this Kickstarter project ends on February 21st. Next up is a previously successful Kickstarter project known as Identity Online, a unique modern-day MMORPG. Unlike many MMOs out there, this one is all focused on realism. You can live your life in this MMO as an honest civilian, a criminal, a police officer, a paramedic, or whatever you want to be. There are no levels or skill grinding, but it offers up a talent and perk progression system, so the player's actions and not the stats of their character will matter most. It's an interesting premise for sure, but one that I'm not too sold on, because personally speaking, I prefer my video games to have at least a small amount of fantasy in there, and I'm sure some other people do as well. Because for me and some other people, the reason I like to play video games is to escape the real world. So to make a game where we're sort of jumping back into the real world comes off as a bit weird. But on the other hand, this game will allow you to do crazy stuff that most people wouldn't do in real life, like hijacking cars or robbing banks, so I'd say calling the game a surreal MMO rather than a realistic one seems a bit more fitting. This game plans to utilize Unreal Engine 4 technology in order to create a realistic world, and from the early development trailer they've shown off, it seems to be pretty believable. This Kickstarter project was successfully funded on February 4th. Japanese indie studio CyberStep has revealed a sequel to their online mecha shooter title known as CosmicBreak2, which features a brand new graphics engine that will allow for improved visuals compared to its predecessors, as well as using cel-shaded visuals that will preserve the game's original signature look. This game will be bringing back several popular humanoids from the previous Cosmic Break game, as well as retain the same fast-paced gameplay while adding in new features such as physics-based attacks and destructible environments. But with my thoughts on this game real quick, I really want to look forward to this game since it's being made by CyberStep, and all of their games are just very bright and creative, and they usually bring something unique to every game genre that has never been done before. But at the same time, however, I'm very worried for this game because it's being published by CyberStep, and well, I think most of us will admit that their services for their games has not been very good in these past several years. Many of their previous titles have been plagued with poor servers, poor netcodes, poor customer service, and pay-to-win cash shops. I'm really just hoping that CyberStep has learned their lesson for this next title, and to be willing to make a well-balanced, free-to-play game that mecha and anime fans can be proud of. If this game manages to reach its basic funding goal before the deadline, their stretch goals include the addition of a Mac version, 2 additional supporting characters, an extra stage, new game modes, and more. The funding deadline for this Kickstarter project ends on March 15th. Now, this last Kickstarter project is a bit dated, but from its current development progress, it's shaping up to be quite a success. This title is called Moon Hunters, a 4-player action RPG that could easily be described as The Legend of Zelda meets Castle Crashers. Players must run, jump, dodge, hack, and slash their way through mystical enemies and explore deep dungeons in a quest to find a missing moon. Like with many other indie titles, this one also sports a very standard retro look, but the design and the atmosphere of the world more than makes up for it. This previous Kickstarter has reached several funding goals, including new friendly factions, a cooking system, online multiplayer for PC and Mac, and a multi-console release for the PS4 and PS Vita. A public playtest for this game is planned to be showcased at PAX East in March, as the development team will be showcasing new details on the game. This project was successfully funded on September 26, 2014. And that's all the time I have for this recap. So if you'd like to learn more about the games featured in this video, just check out the links in the description below. Remember to rate the video and subscribe to our channel for next month's Kicktracker recap. Thank you all for watching. This is Mikedot saying over and out.